Have you ever been in a high stress situation and experienced your body going into a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response? It's a natural response that lies deep within our nervous system. But what happens if you get stuck in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? Nothing good. That's for sure. It's an emergency response, and our bodies are not meant to remain in it and to try to function long term in that state. It's detrimental to our health and our well being. But if you have lived with a high conflict personality, it's likely your nervous system has taken a hit. Stay tuned to learn more about how to regulate your nervous system back into a state of calm.
Hey, beautiful disaster. Yeah, you. Here's the deal. You don't need to have your life together to start taking it back. You are not too messy, too broken, too old, or too late to start over. This podcast is where we turn your chaos into clarity, your heartbreak into healing, and your mess into your magic. I'm Marilee Grace, and together we're rewriting the story loudly, boldly, and unapologetically. Buckle up, gorgeous. It's your time to rise.
Hello and happy Friday. I am Marilee Grace, and you are listening to Okay, so here's the deal, a podcast designed to help you navigate and build an amazing life after leaving a high conflict personality relationship. Today, we're going to be talking some biology. I promise not to get too technical, but just technical enough that you can understand what we're talking about. We're learning about two very important parts of our nervous system and why it is important for us to learn to regulate those systems. I promise not to get too nerdy. And by the end of this podcast, you will have a better understanding of your nervous system and how to regulate it. So buckle up, gorgeous. It's time to chill and heal. Okay, so here's the deal. I cannot begin to tell you the number of times I have actually studied the nervous system over the past 40 years. It's a lot. My very first experience was in the 10th grade in my human physiology class. And if I'm being totally honest, I learned the material long enough to regurgitate it on the test and promptly forget it. I didn't really truly understand it all. I kind of understood parts of it, but it was kind of confusing. In subsequent years, as a psychology major, I've learned the ins and outs of all things nervous system in relation to how our body's response system can affect one's mental health. I always found this material to be complicated and confusing. But now, within the past, say, 3 years, I have had the nervous system explained to me in such a way, simplified, that it has clicked and it's made sense to me. I find it easier to understand. And if I'm being honest, it's probably because I lived some of the experiences that I was learning. Nothing quite like being your own little case study, right? Our nervous system is a little complicated. I'm going to give you the short, abridged version. We're only going to be talking about two parts of the nervous system today. One part's called the sympathetic nervous system, and it prepares our body for stress or activity. It's also known as the fight or flight part of our nervous system. The other part is the parasympathetic nervous system, and it's responsible for relaxing and calming our body and conserving our energy. It's known as the rest and digest phase of our nervous system. In Marilee terms, I like to call the parasympathetic part the chill and heal part of our journey. One nervous system, two parts, opposite involuntary body functions. Let's dive in just a little bit deeper. The sympathetic nervous system responds to danger. It's the infamous fight or flight response. Now, in recent years, we've added the freeze or fawn, but textbooks back in the day only referred to this response as fight or flight. It's our body's way to naturally respond to danger to keep us safe. Now, you've probably heard of the example of the bear. So you have a bear chasing you. Your body is going to naturally just snap into the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to think, oh, bear, danger, body switch over to protect me. It happens automatically. Our body goes into an autopilot mode. And that's good for us because if we had to stop and think about it, the bear would probably get us. Now, in the fight response, you might grab something like if there's a tree limb or a branch, a rock. You might even use your own body to fight off the bear. In the flight response, you're just hightailing it out of there. You're running as fast as you can. You're hoping that you can outrun that bear. In the freeze response, you are so scared, your body doesn't move. You just freeze in place. An example of fawning the bear would be if you are trying to appease and appeal to the bear and you become submissive to the bear to try to convince the bear not to harm you. Opposite of the sympathetic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the calm after the storm or the calm during your day. The body's in a state of rest and digest. No need to be on alert because there is no danger present. There's no bear there. You're just chilling. You're going about your day. You're going to be storing some energy. You're not going to be using energy. You use energy to run away from the bear, but you're just resting, storing energy, not using much. When our bodies are responding in a typical manner, the sympathetic response is going to be a burst of energy, an immediate reaction to an immediate and real danger. You've got that bear back there, and you have got to figure out what to do, or your body just naturally figures out the response it's going to do to protect you from that danger, from that very real bear that's chasing you. When the danger subsides, your body's going to naturally release. And that's when the parasympathetic nervous system takes over and it calms you. And you return to a state of rest and you start to store up energy. You're not using energy. But in the case of constant stress in a high conflict personality relationship, the body is not going to return to that rest and digest. The body is going to stay on high alert. It has learned to stay on high alert even when the danger is no longer there. It's like the body is prepared because in the past, you just never know when the danger is going to be there. So it remains in that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. And that's not good. In the case of high conflict personality relationships, this has often been described as feeling like you're walking on eggshells. You're trying not to poke the bear. You feel like you're in a state of hypervigilance. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Sound familiar? I like to relate it to it's like there's a hamster on a hamster wheel. And hamsters on a hamster wheel run and run and run and run and run. They don't stop, they just keep running. There's no danger there. They're not running from something, but they stay on that wheel and they just run and run and run and run till exhaustion. Now, our body does not relax when we are in that state, when we are in the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. And living in this constant state of hyper awareness cripples our parasympathetic nervous system and our sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system just doesn't know how to calm and reset because the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn part of our body, the sympathetic nervous system, is working overtime, constantly going. It is using up all of our energy. We're not able to store or restore any energy. And the body starts to get depleted from a constant state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. I know you've heard the term the chemical cortisol. Cortisol is naturally released when our body is in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And it aids in our ability to effectively respond and helps to keep us safe. But in a constant state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, that cortisol level gets dangerously high. It's released constantly into our nervous system, and it is destructive. High cortisol levels can cause widespread physical and mental health issues. Things like weight gain, high blood pressure, increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Add in type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, insomnia, fatigue, anxiety, depression, increased nervousness, impaired memory and concentration, a breakdown of the tissues in our body, resulting in muscle weakness, bone loss, thin, bruised skin that bruises easily, and an increased risk for autoimmune disorders, just to name a few things. So, what happens when you leave that toxic relationship? Your body doesn't just instantly move into rest and digest. It remains on high alert. It's still acting and fearing that the danger is still there, even though the danger has removed. It takes time, it takes retraining for our bodies to trust us again, to go, okay, danger's gone. I can rest. I can replenish. I can restore the energy. I can chill and heal. It takes time. But with time and training, your body's going to start to trust, and it's going to realize that the danger, it's truly gone, and that it is okay to move into that rest and digest, that chill and heal response. But we must retrain our bodies, and it must be intentional to do things to help regulate our body and make it so our body can reclaim the calm. Now, if you listen to last week's episode, we did talk about grounding techniques, and we practiced several of them. And I hope you found some that you really like and that you are going to start using regularly. The things that we talked about just briefly, we did some breathing, we did some physical grounding, we havened, we hummed, just to name a few things. If you haven't listened to episode 8, please go back and listen to episode 8 to learn some of those grounding techniques, because they are going to help you on your healing journey. And you're going to start to implement those in your daily life to aid in the healing, to aid in your body starting to trust you again. And just know your parasympathetic nervous system, it's not permanently damaged, it's not permanently broken. And your sympathetic nervous system isn't going to constantly be in a state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Not if you retrain it, not if you start practicing some of the techniques that we discussed last week and that we practiced last week. And boy, wouldn't it be wonderful for that hamster to get off the hamster wheel and finally just go rest? It's possible. If you need to save this episode so that you can go back and listen to it a time or two, or as many as it takes, and if you need to go back and save episode 8 so that you can practice those techniques, please feel free to do so. That's what these episodes are for. It does take time and effort to retrain your body to respond correctly. Just know You can do this. You can heal. Next week, we are going to be talking about trauma and healing. We will talk about how understanding your past can help you heal yourself so that you can live a bigger, brighter, and better future. And I know we have been talking about some pretty heavy topics last week and this week, and then next week you're going, oh my gosh, is it going to stop? Well, it's really important that these 3 episodes are coupled together because the learning builds on top of each other. And I didn't want to just have one episode as a standalone because we're walking through how to heal. We're walking through understanding our body's response, and we're going to be walking through the trauma and healing part and just what that means for us and our future. So it's important. I promise we're not going to be heavy forever. But next week, we will be talking a little bit heavy with trauma and healing. But I want you to hear me on this. I promise you, you are worth your best effort. And until next week, remember, you are not meant to do this alone. Together, we will continue to rise.
Hey, beautiful. Thank you for spending time with me today. And congratulations for showing up for yourself. If today's episode was helpful, share it with a friend and let me know in the comments what resonated most. Your feedback helps me create content that truly matters as we grow this community together. If you haven't already, subscribe and leave a review. It helps this podcast reach more women who need this space. Okay, so here's the deal. You can find me wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I'll meet you back here next Friday. Until then, remember, you belong here. It's time to rise.